Hi, Anastasia. Thank you so much for inviting me. This is so awesome. And so, yeah, let's get started. So I'm going to talk today, and then it's going to be followed by a panel about non-fungible humans, so personal tokens as a mechanism to bootstrap success or hand over your life. So in crypto, there's a few things that you cannot do without this new tech stack. And so we're going to explore a primitive, which is called personal tokens. And so really the definition that we're going to expand on is basically issuing a token, so a store value unit of account, medium of exchange on the blockchain that is directly tied to a service or product that a person brings. So let's look at the history of social tokens, which basically is non-existent because it started in 2019, generated 2019 by that boy, which is a person called Matthew Vernon, and widely regarded as one of the best designer in the industry in crypto. And he issued a token called Boy for 1 hour of design work. So it opened up for the first use case, which is the freelance token. So Matthew has a very high demand, hard scale. And there's a few characteristics of his hard skill. So it's a scarce token supply so that he can manage inbound freelance requests. And so what's really interesting here is that he gets the funds first. So it kind of reverses the power dynamics of freelance because you get your inbound kind of salary and it brings more stability for freelancers, especially as they tend to be paid later, not earlier than employees. And so because it's a token, we want to play with the speculation part of crypto to kind of have the reputation being tied and being discovered through the market of people buying or selling the token and redeeming it for his or her services. So this is the first kind of use case. And so there's some success stories. So we see Matthew was the pioneer of that category, but there's also another category that's called legal engineering. So we see Ross Campbell here. The price exploded in the past 3 months because of the demand for it. And we saw also Ruben, which is an ex-employee, chief legal officer at Coinbase, and now working at Zora. And basically, legal engineering is a skill that's very high demand. So again, hard skill freelance, it's a mix of low and also smart contracts. And so like Ethereum engineering and technology. And so the mix of both is a very high demand skill and might be the future of lawyers pretty much. So again, like the price increase was huge. And so massive upside for the person like Ross or Ruben who tried their own personal token. So then there's the second use case, which I think is the biggest one, which is selling your potential, not just your time as a freelancer, but your potential for the long term. So there's different dynamics here. So first we can see the supply will be much larger. So whereas for an hour equal 1 token, you might issue 100 tokens so that you can manage your next 100 hours of time. Here you can issue something like 10 million tokens. Like what I've done, and I'm going to talk about this later. And the long-term returns might be bigger or at least more predictable and more akin to early-stage venture investing rather than classical freelance, as we just talked about. But for this to kind of work, you need kind of a personal community, people who care about you, basically enough market to trigger a buy and sell pressure so that it can be priced over time. Because it's now not just a hard skill, it's about you as a person. Do you excite people? Do people look up to you when they think about your potential, etc.? So pre-crypto, there was actually some experiments. And so Mike Merrill, which he's the first, I think, incorporated person. So he is publicly traded. He did this without crypto, just using financial tools and a website. And so basically 1 share equal $1. And the more dollars you have, the more buying power you have into his decisions. And it's crazy decisions like, should I marry my girlfriend? Or who should I vote for in 2016 elections? And what's really funny is that it opens up for literally personal boards of directors that will guide someone's life. And so it can be used in basically funny, almost artistic ways like Mike Merrill, but it could also be extremely great feedback for young people who wanted to maximize their potential, or other types of people, as we're going to see. And those types include entertainers. So we've seen Spencer Dinwiddie, which is a NBA young athlete who created, I think, the first security for a person for his contract. So it's a 3 years contract for 34.5 million, and it's enabling him to have more of his money up front. So just like the freelancer use case, that's like the power dynamics that this brings, is that he got his funds and bonuses up front for people betting that he will fulfill those, and even his contract will yield even more money. And so this is great for athletes, but next we can think about hip hop or social media influencers and all that category of people with a personal community that can do long-term returns and that can really trigger maybe some sort of price speculation that is so specific to crypto. And so, of course, a lot of people ask basically the question, is this, modern indentured servitude? Are we really going to become kind of slave of the people who bought the tokens? And is this going to be some sort of Black Mirror dystopia? Well, there's a few points that make it the opposite, where actually we have more power. So first, the creator is above platforms. So most of the time it's on Ethereum, you create your own token. And since you actually own the token because it's censorship resistant and all the properties of blockchain tokens, you actually are above platforms. So as we're going to see, I am tokenized in one company, but if I want to, I can just move it to another company and issue my own token in other ways, or I can use my token in Twitter or other platform, versus before crypto, you had to stick with a company and you were kind of stuck there. And the second thing is acknowledge trust. So for instance, we saw Matthew Vernon, which was offering his design work. But on his website, we can clearly see that he will refuse any work regarding to oil, tobacco, or any industries he doesn't want to do. So the great thing about getting the funds first is that you have the right to refuse and basically return the token. So it's really based on the trust of the person. And I think that's a very important part of, there is no hard peg. We are not like a stable coin tokenized to $1. People remain humans and they can carry on with human decisions. And so I think this dystopia is in the global consciousness of people, but actually doesn't really materialize so far. So I'm going to talk quickly about my experience with self-tokenization, so creating my own token of myself. So right now I have a token called Alex. It was issued by Roll, which is a company backed by Spencer Dinwiddie, I think Gary Vee, and a lot of famous people. And basically 10 million tokens representing myself was minted forever, and it's a fixed supply. So people are kind of know that there won't be some inflation reducing the value of the token. And you can trade on Uniswap via this link. And so we initially started as 25,000 Alex was equal to 1 hour of my time, whether it's intro to crypto or a one-to-one session or feedback or user testing or marketing help or any of my skill that people wanted. And then like everything could be priced kind of on a one-to-one basis. So if someone wanted a tweet on my Twitter account, because I have some crypto Twitter followers, they could do so. And basically I could do whatever I wanted with it. And so really there's two parts to my token. The first one is the utility. So there are many, many things that I introduced, and I can basically introduce it whatever update I want anytime, because it is my token and I basically choose all the features. So there's loads to go through. But for instance, there's like a specialized chat room where if you prove you own at least one Alex, you can chat with me. And so I know that all the people in the room are aligned and want the best for my future, hopefully. And otherwise voting on my life, like where should I move to, and other things that are non-binding, but help like healthily guide me. And so all of these kind of utility, but also the personal token offering, which is why I got a bit of attention in this space, which is I did a lot of projects in crypto, but now I want to graduate to an actual founder and raise a venture-backed startup. And so in my transition, I thought that my community could help me actually move to San Francisco, even though I know Benedict Evans said like there was some loss of steam for Silicon Valley. I'm still very bullish on it. And so in roughly 5 days, I raised $20,000 for 15% of my income for the next 3 years, and I kept it at 5x so that I do not hurt my future income personally too much. But at the same time, I can provide some kind of ROI for people who will feel like they were early on in me. And so I feel like this kind of started a trend. So now there's Kerman that we're gonna see in the panel very soon. Whale, which is like a big NFT collector, basically tokenizing his personal collection of digital items. And it seems to me that there's a movement here, and it's really, really fascinating. So I think, yeah, my like general stance is that we should keep experimenting. We should not take this extremely seriously. We are innovating in a whole new space, and we are always in between kind of two questions. The first one is avoid indentured servitude. We don't want to go into the dystopia of being like binding contracts with and being forced to do things that we do not want. But at the same time, as we saw with my sale, there was some backlash because it seems like I have too much power. So people are confused between, okay, you might have not enough power and people can overpower you, the token holders, but at the same time, there's another extreme where people criticize me for, which is you have too much power. And it's true that right now there is no accountability mechanism, or there is no legal recourse for if you wanted to get reimbursed for my token. Technically, I have the $20,000 and I can do whatever I want with it, and I signaled it to the community, and it's fine. But I think in the future we have to experiment with maybe some kind of buyer protection, and expanding it to other people. So for my community, it was kind of easy because it was crypto native, and I did this with Ethereum, MetaMask, and all the native tools. But how do we make this for 1 billion people? How do we basically let anyone in the world raise funds or sell the services? I think it would be great in an era of uncertainty to have anyone in the world maximize their potential in any way that they want and that they choose. So really fascinated by this. So thank you so much. I'm not sure if this QR code works, but it might be some free Alex for you. Otherwise, you can get it on alex.bymagic.xyz, and feel free to follow me on Twitter at @alexmasmej. Yeah, thank you so much.
Want access to more CogX videos? Subscribe now for free at cogx.co.